It's become a trope and a cliche these days to say that modern Western cultures are characterized by guilt and primitive East Asian cultures are characterized by shame. I personally think this is a massive exaggeration, it's a sweeping overgeneralization, and it's used too often to explain too much. However, it's kind of true. So, quickly, here's a definition of shame and guilt. Shame is what you have when you do a bad thing, it's like a stain upon yourself, and you have violated some social moral norm, some law. And now the source of the law, this moral law, is external. It's what your society, the society in which you have been born and raised in, has determined and told you is forbidden. This moral code comes from the outside and it's imposed upon you. Let me give you an example. In some Asian cultures, it's forbidden to place your chopsticks this way, facing out in a bowl of rice. Why? I mean, it actually makes perfect sense to me to use your rice as a convenient chopstick holder. But it looks too much like incense sticks that you would burn in a ceremonial veneration of your ancestors. So this looks like death. So you don't do it. Do I venerate my dead ancestors? No. Do I believe this is associated with death? No. There is nothing in me that resonates with this, but I respect and care for the people around me, and I respect and care for my culture and history. So for their sake, I do it. I don't put my chopsticks sticking out of my bowl of rice. Now, if I were to violate these social norms in the Asian context, I would feel shame. I feel shame because the eyes of others are looking at me. The social norms are coming from the outside. The judgment of others in my society are coming in from the outside, and the shame I feel is the sense that I've let everyone down. I've disappointed and failed everyone, and everyone is looking at me and saying and thinking, "You are such a failure and a disappointment." The sense of shame can be crushing. The image I have is like some submarine that sinks into the Marinara Trench. Now that's like the deepest place on planet Earth under the Pacific Ocean. It's like the Grand Canyon at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. It's the deepest and darkest place on Earth, and where the pressure is 1,000 times higher than any place on the surface of the Earth. If you were to go down there, your body would be crushed like a tin can. That is shame. Everyone is looking down on you and crushing you with their judgment. Guilt is similar, but kind of different. Guilt is a modern and Western phenomenon, whereas shame is communal, guilt is individual, personal, and subjective. Now, here's the difference. Let's say I embezzle money from a company I work for. As long as no one ever finds out, no one will ever know what I did, I will feel no shame. Because shame depends on other eyeballs looking at me. Shame is a judgment of others looking on me. Or shame is enforced by the unified collective judgment of the community on me. But if no one knows that in theory that I stole it, I'm fine, no shame, because no eyeballs are looking at me. But guilt would look something like this. I embezzle money from my company. Now I'm sitting on a massive pile of stolen money. I know that I will never be caught. But what I have is this nagging, horrible feeling in me. I know I've done something horrible. Why? Well, the moral standards are not out there being imposed upon me, enforced by other people. That's shame. But with guilt, I've internalized the moral standards. They are my standards. They live in me. So I don't need other eyeballs looking at me to judge me. I'm judging myself, and I feel terrible. That's guilt. Now, shame is contingently a person's identity being deeply enmeshed in the community, as in, quote, I can't imagine or conceptualize myself apart from the community, end quote. Guilt is about the individual who can be a nonconformist and a rebel. The guilty person doesn't need the community to tell him what's right or wrong. The guilt and the moral code is in him, and he does not need the community to enforce it. He enforces himself. It's his own guilt that calls him out for his crimes. So many of us are Korean Americans. We are cultural hybrids. We got some American in us. We got some Korean in us. That would suggest we have some guilt in us, and we got some shame in us. Like it or not, that's part of our cultural legacy. So how does that affect the way we experience and interpret our Christian faith? Do we Korean Americans understand Christianity a little bit differently than our white American friends who feel a lot of guilt, but not much shame? And we, I think, maybe feel a lot more shame and a lot less guilt. Yeah, I think it does affect the way we interpret, experience, and understand our Christian faith. I really do. But more on that next time.